We start with unrest in Belarus this Tuesday, where the main challenger has left the country. This after a second night of street clashes between police and opposition supporters. The country has been rocked by violence since election results gave President Alexander Lukashenko 80%. However, Svetlana Tikhanouskaya has refused to accept them. Lukashenko has been president since 1994 and has been dubbed Europe's last dictator. Now, for more on this, I'd like to bring in our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, thank you so much for being with us. Of course, we know that Tikhanouskaya has been calling on her supporters to end the demonstrations. Surely there's an element of pressure at play here.
Well, it certainly looks a little bit strange, to say the least. Just 24 hours ago, she was filing a complaint with the Central Election Commission saying that the results had been tampered with, that actually she was the winner. And then, after she filed that complaint, in which she disappeared effectively for 7 hours, she re-emerged to say that she was leaving the country of her own choice, fully independently, that she discovered that she wasn't the strong woman that she perhaps thought she was, and that she was leaving for the sake of her children. Her children, it should be said, had left for neighboring Lithuania before the election itself. So she has left for Lithuania to join them there. But there are certain elements about this which do, as I said, to say the very least, seem a bit strange. The fact that she disappeared for several hours and clearly was put under pressure, the fact that she put out this short video calling for people to stay off the street, not to get into violent clashes with the police, and the fact, too, that she disappeared in such strange circumstances are giving rise to lots of questions. And her own her own spokesperson has said that, in her opinion, the reason she left was part of a deal after pressure had been put on her that would see the release from custody of her campaign manager. And it's interesting that, indeed, her campaign manager did leave for Lithuania with her. So it does appear that, despite what she's saying at the moment, the pressure was put on her and that this isn't the free and fair, open, independent decision that perhaps on the surface it might seem to be.
So, Rob, many questions, not enough answers. We know that she has left the country. Whether she fled or not is another question to be asked. Where does this leave Belarus at the moment?
Well, obviously this is the big question, isn't it? We know what's going to happen next. And we've had calls today for a nationwide strike and for a mass demonstration. Whether or not that happens, I don't know, but one thing we can be absolutely sure of with Alexander Lukashenko is that he will always resort to repression. He will always resort to violence when he's threatened. We've seen this now for 26 years, since his first actually free election in 1994. That's the direction he's going to go in. There are lots of possible variables here, like just how determined is the Belarusian population to oppose him? How much violence are they prepared to endure? How loyal is the security? How loyal are the security services, for instance? But I think that probably the big question here is what Russia does next. And it was interesting that when Vladimir Putin sent his message of congratulations, it wasn't as warm as perhaps it could have been. He tied it to a call for Belarus under Lukashenko to add substance to the union agreement between the two countries, which Lukashenko has always sort of shied off from in the past. And it called for putting substance into collective security agreements, the collective economic agreements, political agreements between the two countries. In other words, Russia is saying to him, look, this is the deal. If you want support from us, if you want cheap oil like you've been getting up until now, then you've got to make political concessions to us as well. Is Lukashenko prepared to do that? I don't think he is at this stage. He hasn't shown any sign of it in the past. So we're looking, I think, perhaps towards a clash in which he will try to maneuver between the European Union and Russia. But his room for maneuver is certainly narrowing. But Russia's is too, I think. This is the interesting part of it. Russia does not want on its doorsteps another Ukraine. So that inclines it to support Lukashenko. But on the other hand, it knows the dangers of supporting a dictatorial leader who loses support of its own population and is then overthrown. So Russia finds itself in a difficult position too.
Rob Parsons, thank you so much for those insights on what appears to be an escalating situation over in Belarus.